Welcome to They Mostly Pottered at Night. Mostly, I am Salem, joined by my co-host Graveyard.
Hello.
This is episode 72 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. This is week 3 of the month of May, Salem, and that means Graveyard is forced to watch some old school horror adjacent anime. So now that his mind has been scarred by the depths of Japanese depravity, let's tell you how you made out, buddy. Oh, give me that. This is fantastic, classic stuff that you enjoyed very much, and you give it all high scores.
Yes.
Good answer.
It's no. I mean, this is anyone doesn't know, anyone that listens to anything else I may potentially say or do on the internet. I'm notoriously not known for enjoying anime, whether it be in video game format or in movies or TV shows. It's really hit and miss for me. We discussed before some things I do thoroughly enjoy, like we discussed Animatrix before. I love it, the entirety of Animatrix. I love, the Star Wars show. Was it Visions?
I'm gonna blow your mind for a minute. You ready?
Yes.
The guy who made 3 of these movies that we're going to be watching today actually made 2 different of the Animatrix shorts.
Oh, which ones?
The racing one, which is probably like one of my least favorite ones, and then but the one of my favorite ones is the one where they're like fighting in like ancient Japan, like they're
yes,
like the one lady's all dressed in white and the guys get so that one. They're both done by the same guy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I mean, spoiler alert here. It did change my mind, at least on the horror side of anime, to say the least. Am I going to go watch the 10,000 episodes of One Piece? No.
Well, again, yeah, I mean, I obviously watch more anime than you do. That's true.
Yes.
But I am very, very, very picky. And most of the stuff that I really like is classic stuff. Like this stuff is all from pre-2000, which is, most anime or most, I guess, popular anime came out after that point.
Yes.
So yeah, this is all classic stuff, which is where I got into it. These are some of my favorites that I originally got me into it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of why I was forcing you to watch it, so you could have the same entry point to good anime that I did. Because before this is like the only really exposure. Well, this is also caveman pre-internet times where it was very, very hard to watch any kind of anime because it's like you had to special order it for ridiculous amounts of money. Or you watch it on TV, which, again, this is old school antenna TV. The only place that would play anime was like, out here in the Chicago area, it was channel 66, which was hard to get anywhere because it was, such a kind of off channel. But it was either one of the weekend days they would have like, animation night or whatever.
Or you could spend $50 on the Suncoast DVD.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You have to special order it, for ridiculous amounts of money. Yeah, like I remember, well, you probably don't know, Trigun is one of my animes that I like.
I know that.
Yeah, I bought we're going to date myself again. I bought the VHSs of those individually because I could not afford them all at once. So I bought, each tape had like 3 episodes on it.
Yep.
And so I would buy each tape for, I don't know, it was a lot. It was a lot more than I was really willing to spend on that. But like, I didn't have enough money, so I would buy like one a month. So it took me like almost an entire year to buy the entire series on VHS.
Mm-hmm. So we've discussed before offline, and I believe on this too, that Pet Shop of Horrors that I had somehow watched in the 90s. That we need to find to watch it. Even it would probably fit into here perfectly fine if what I remember is accurate. But what I didn't realize was an anime or manga at that point in time in the 80s when I watched it was The Guyver.
Yeah.
I love that movie. Yeah, it's live action. It is Mark Hamill. It is Michael Berryman. And that's about it. And it is robots fighting monsters, essentially.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I haven't watched
horror.
that movie in 30 years or something.
But with body horror. So.
Right.
Anyway, so what movies are we going to review?
Anyway, so I really did not know that the same guy made 3 of these movies. I knew that he made the first 2 that we're going to go through here. I did not know that he made the third one. I guess that's my fault. I should have realized I had a taste and I was just a fan of this guy. But anyway, I did not know that. I mean, I obviously I know it now. I did not know that when we first picked the movies to do this. I was just picking my favorite ones. So 3 of these are by the same director. So it's kind of sort of a director's spotlight. I'm going to butcher his name, so I apologize in advance. His name is Yoshiaki Kawajiri.
And it is based off of work by Hayuki Kikuchi, who did also Vampire Hunter D, which I know.
Yeah. That one I like too, but
yeah,
next time.
There you go.
So the 3 we're going to be doing is Wicked City, which came out in 1987, Demon City Shinjuku, which came out in 1988, I think.
Yeah.
Ninja Scroll, which came out in 1993, and Perfect
Japan,
Blue.
95 for us in the States.
Oh, yes.
I had a hard time trying to find that. I'm like, what year did it come out?
Well, yeah, they're always, because they reissue them and they come out with like director's versions and then OVA version. There's so many goofy versions of it. It's hard to find sometimes.
Yeah.
And then we got Perfect Blue, which came out in 1997, which is technically the newest one. Yeah.
Yes. I'll say that right now. If you, the order that it is in there, I would have said Perfect Blue would have been the precursor. We'll get into that.
I mean, I can see that. It's just a different style. Yeah, and we'll get into that a bit too. To where the different styles are, they focus on different things that, whatever. Well, we'll get into as we go
also,
along.
We'll also get into the dubbed versions versus the subtitled versions.
Yes, I did. Well, I did an experiment and a half. One I tried to do all, and I couldn't do it. One I did do because I had to. So I guess, but I know what the other side is like on both of them. So yeah, we'll get into that. But that's Demon City Shinjuku and Ninja Scroll. So we'll get into that in a minute. The first one here I will let you run with is Wicked City.
All right, I will do my very best to try to.
Well, honestly, there's not a whole lot that happens in these, so you could probably speed run them because there's 4 of them.
Yeah, I figure we'll just do quick synopses of these for the most part. But essentially, in Japan, there is a treaty that has been on. I think they said for 500 years. The treaty's been in place between the Black World, where essentially supernatural creatures or demons, shapeshifters, things of nightmares, essentially, exist. And there is coming a time where the treaty is up for renewal. And that's kind of the plot that is going there, to secure that treaty that exists. Long story short, a guy is at a bar, he's betting the bartender. He's like, that woman's been in the bathroom very long. He's taken out for a couple times over the past couple of months. I believe he says been 3 months or something like that. And we see her in the bathroom getting ready. She's like, hey, let's go back to my place. He's like, what? Are you sure? And we see in the bathroom a female hand. Now, at this point in time, we don't know whether necessarily alive or dying. I think her hand moved slightly. And then we essentially get what I'm going to call the inspiration for the movie Teeth. He takes the lady he's been courting for months back to her place. They get it on, and then he narrowly escapes his penis being bitten off by the Venus flytrap vagina.
After her arms elongate.
Yes.
and get claws on the end of it.
Essentially, she turns into a spider with a teeth vagina.
Yeah, a four-legged spider with a teethy vagina, yes.
Yeah, like I said, inspiration for the movie Teeth.
Fair.
which we'll have to get to at some point. And she's like,
I have seen that one. I do know that one.
Yes. She's like, oh, you barely escaped. I got what I came for. All right, cool. He's like, whew. And then we get like I'd say hints of noir in it.
I would say I think it's more than hints. It's more than hints.
Very odd places. Like when how eager she was when she greeted him at the door. I'm like, that's a weird place to have an inner monologue.
Well, yeah, the way I literally wrote it down. I was like, how do you describe this movie? And I would call it, 3 words, right? Well, I guess not 3 words, but whatever. 3 descriptors. How about that?
Yes.
I would call it erotic, noir, Men in Black.
Yes. Hands down, yes. I completely agree with that. And there is very, very much, and I'll get into that plot, is, he the main guy, let's call him Taki, or Ren. What do they call him most? Taki, right? They go by last names in agencies. Like I said, I watched the dubbed version, so maybe the subtitles.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, because the names are different, as we'll find out as we go along.
But he works at a company and he sells electronics. But that's the cover. He is actually part of the Black Guard, which is used to Men in Black it up. Men in Black is aliens. They have to fight rogue aliens and protect the public from this. But he is protecting the world from the Black world, and they have the Black Guard, who's there to stop any violations of the treaty. So he does get we introduced to him. He gets a new partner who is actually from the Black world, right? And I guess it's one of the first persons from the Black world to ever really be on like the team enforcing the treaty.
Yeah, well, they kind of made it sound like they have their own version of that on their side,
right?
But she's the first one that I guess started out on their side, but then came over to their side, or
yes,
something like that.
Yeah. So, and he's, I'd say, pretty smitten with her right away. And we do see some of their, he's attacked by, let's call them spaghetti gut creatures. And she has like Lady Deathstrike fingers.
Yeah.
Fingernails.
Exactly.
Right. So anyone doesn't know Lady Deathstrike, cybernetic implants like Wolverine, but she's like, I don't know, 3 foot long fingernails.
Yeah. 3 foot long metal fingernails that come out of her fingers.
Right. And she gets, life gets saved. He has a gun, and this is also a very Men in Black thing that, this is something that's really interesting. His gun is so powerful it can kill the Black World demons, but like it is very powerful, and the movie does it really well that he's also pushed back hard.
Yeah. He
gets imprinted
walls.
into he gets imprinted into bricks. The gun is firing that hard, and it kind of like the cricket from Men in Black where he fires and he just gets thrown the other way because Newton's laws say for every action there's opposite and equal reaction. So yeah, it makes sense.
Did you see the bullets? Like they actually do a close up on the gun. You can see what kind of bullets go in it.
Oh, I don't recall.
They were 454 Casuls, which are if you've ever seen a gun that shoots 454 Casuls, it's like giant. One of those ridiculous revolvers that you're like, people don't actually like use this as a gun, do they? Because it's so big. Right. I don't know how anybody can lift it, nevertheless shoot it accurately.
Right.
But yeah, giant bullets is a short story. Giant bullets
that are very powerful and not bullets, but like laser-ish.
Yeah, well, there's some kind of like something is done to either the gun or the bullets to make it hurt demons. I don't know what it is.
Right, because
they didn't. I don't think they ever
explain
it. Yeah, they don't think they ever explain it, but it's a special gun for demons.
Okay, so nothing I'm missing from watching the dub.
No, they don't actually explain it. He just says does say that his gun is made to hurt demons, but he never explains how.
Yeah. So anyway, they have to protect a guy who is going to be brokering the new treaty, and he is at least 200 years old and a pervert.
Yeah, he's your typical anime tiny old man.
2 foot tall, horny old guy.
Right. And usually in like the PG versions of anime, he just talks about it. This one is like he's like, yeah, straight up looking at pornography. He's like
give me this girl, give me this girl, give me this girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I don't know if they say it in the dubbed version. I don't know what he actually says, but like he's in the car in one scene and he's talking about how he's like, oh man, he's like, you know how like all these dudes want to like bone these demon ladies, right? He's like, you know why? And they're like, we don't want to know. And he's like, no, I'll tell you. It's because that pussy pops.
Yep.
I'm like, what?
He said that too.
Fuck?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you would say it the same way. But that's exactly how he says it. In 1987.
Yes.
So, where are we getting our slang from is a better question, I guess, because that's like modern day slang that he said in 1987, which is crazy.
Yes. So anyway, he wants to go to all the brothels that exist. Like, oh, I'm horny, get me there. They're like, no, here's some magazines. You can't leave the room. And like, oh, you got to protect me, blah, blah, blah.
Well, they bring him to a special hotel, which is supposed to be like spiritually protected from demons.
Spiritually and psychically charged. So if anyone that knows the magicians or Dresden Files that know about protective wards, they have spells cast throughout the buildings that you can't really unravel, right? It's spells upon spells upon spells. Thing like the Sanctum Sanctorum, essentially, of Doctor Strange. Like, oh, hey, this place is good. This is a safe house. And no. The first guy just like immediately just destroys it. They start fighting. He rips the arm off, but luckily it was a cybernetic arm of one of the concierges that Taki was playing chess with. Taki gets kind of knocked out. And goes upstairs. I think at this point in time, he starts hitting and assaulting the new agent that's there to protect her. Silliness and stuff that we don't necessarily need to say on this.
Well, just say sexual assault occurs.
Sexual assault occurs. Yes, and spoiler, that is our Ados is sexually assaultive demons because there's a lot. So she's able to kind of get that. He's kind of going back and forth. They're like, hey, we used to be lovers. We used to be something. Now you're working for them. I like this body more, and just bad things happen. Anyway, Taki's able to come up there and kind of wound him. I don't think he kills him, right? But
that guy he does. But
okay,
but he's just a small part of the bigger force.
Yeah. So anyway, they're like, oh, the horny old guy snuck out, and he's at a place talking about his 200-year-old wang and how strong it is for 200 years old. And then he starts promptly getting, let's say, color out of space with the Lady of the Night. The Lady of the Black World. How about that?
Well, yeah, melting into her. She's like a masseuse or something.
Yeah,
a naked masseuse.
Yes. So they're able to find him. Like, where'd he go? Oh, he's clearly here at Soapland. And they rip him out. They're able to wound her. But they are taking him to the hospital because he is old as hell and he needs medical attention. While there, Maki they get attacked because like, hey, this is really weird. It's like dark and quiet. Like they entered like the I'd say almost the black world dimension, or the veil between them where nothing makes sense. So Maki goes out and starts fighting them and is like, hey, you gotta get him here. He's the most important thing. He has to make this tree happen. She is attacked by tentacles, to say the least. The old guy recovers pretty quickly, and he kind of
the car on the way out there, they get attacked.
Yeah.
In what they call a pocket dimension, like they put him in a little place in the dark world. And they kidnap the lady, but he gets away with the old man. So he gets the old man to the hospital, which is a special psychic hospital that's even more protected than the hotel supposedly was. So he's like actually protected in this hotel or in this hospital. So then he decides he's going to go back and save the girl, even though the old man tells him, hey, you're not supposed to do that. Like, you're supposed to protect me. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Everything's screwed anyway. I'm going to go get her back.
Go get her. He gets her after she is viciously attacked again by multiple beings.
Just we'll keep it at more sexual assault occurs.
Yes. But he's able to save her and get rid of her. And now she's kind of wounded, and she's able to, like I said, break free. They eventually get, well, she goes, hey, that one guy is like, yeah, I used to be with him, all this stuff. They go to the clinic. They talk to Taki's superior. He's like, yeah, you left your post. You left your guy. You're fired. He's like, all right, cool. Anyway, like, you know what? But this treaty is more important, so we're still going to go ahead and kind of take care of it. And they kind of go after the main guy at this point in time, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't realize that the old guy stowed away.
Well, not yet, no.
Right. So they're going like, okay, we got to finish this. We're going to go kill him. Blah, blah, blah. And they kind of fight him back and forth. And they feel like they think they're dead in a way in the church, or maybe their own pocket dimension, because it seemed like they both got killed or got
they were attacked again, like immediately.
Yeah.
And then stuff happened to where they woke up and thought they were dead, but they were actually in a church.
Right.
Yeah.
But we should bone. So
yep. That's what you do when you wake up naked in a church.
Exactly. So anyway, they're okay. If this is, I'm trying to remember if they said hell or heaven, whatever it was, they're okay with it. This is where they're going to live the rest of their lives. They're okay with it. The dubbed version. Eventually, they try to come back again. And then they are, talking about, hey, you guys are like the perfect couple. You guys are going to make the one. That they've been trying to genetically splice black world and humans for hundreds of years. They've been able to do it, and that's what the purpose of the Venus flytrap vagina lady was in the beginning of the movie, was trying to get genetic code. And that's all they're trying to do, is to create this thing that can walk both worlds and live in both worlds.
Right. But the dark world is opposed to that.
Right.
So they were working against
human world
it. The human world is for it.
Yeah, they said they've been trying it for how long? They have like entire government facilities trying to do all this stuff.
Right. So essentially what happens is it's like Dune. Like the Bene Gesserit and Dune have like these genetic lines that they're trying to interbreed to make like the perfect being. And basically this is the end result, is they force these two to be together because their genetic code is going to make the one, the perfect being.
Yes. So anyway, look, the horny old guy is alive, and he just easily defeats the shadow guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, by the way, you weren't protecting me. I was protecting you.
Well, yeah, and he also shows his power, which is that lightning power, which we saw a couple of times earlier in the movie, but we were given no explanation as to what that was all about. But now we know that was him protecting them.
Yeah. So then he tells them all that stuff, and he's like, "You love her," and I said, "This is the version. You love her, don't you?" He goes, "No, I could never." Okay. I'm sure the subtitle version is different because I'm looking at the lineup.
It is very different. Different. No, he does say no. He does say no. Okay. Well, he says, I want to say no. And then he starts to walk away, and then he turns around and he says, but that would be a lie.
That did not happen.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying the subtitled version, it's like he does say no, and it's like, oh, damn, that's rough. Because then she's all like, hurt, and then he turns around and he's like, but that's a lie. And then, like, they actually, I mean, it's not like a sappy ending, but he does say, like, yeah, I do have feelings for her. I want to work it out.
Right. And then he's able to get his job back working at the Blackguard because he did what he was supposed to do, and he wants to protect because, quote, in the dub version, the child's not old enough yet, aka not born, to protect itself, so things will be coming for it, so he must work for the Blackguard to protect his love and his child.
Well, yeah, they pretend fired them both so that they would have nothing else to do but bone. That's why they did it. They weren't actually fired.
Right.
Yeah.
End of movie.
Correct.
Okay. Decent recap.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. I mean, I was just kind of trying to step in because a reason why I'm stepping in is because I know you watched the dubbed version and I watched the subtitled version. So again, it is explained better in the subtitled version. I was just trying to like clarify it, both for you and for whoever may be listening. So.
Yeah. Do you want me to go into my first thoughts? This is you had your first thoughts. Well, you can do your first thoughts and rewatch it too because you've rewatched this. This is my first time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, it very much is. There very big hints of Men in Black. Obviously, Men in Black was a comic before the movie, and I really feel like they drew a lot of inspiration for a lot of it from this movie, from Wicked City.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. You watch classic anime, and you will see a lot of people pulled a lot of inspiration from this old stuff. And
yes,
I guess it's not really surprising because, I mean, yeah, a lot of people watched it and it formed them, but it's also not very common. So, like, when people use, like, callbacks to classic movies and stuff like that, if we know the movies, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, it's an homage to this or whatever. But anime, most people don't know. So you don't realize that it's people are giving homages. I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit more later on with Darren Aronofsky and Perfect Blue, but we'll get there.
And to me, that was like the oh shit moment, like when you watch Dark City for the first time and then watch The Matrix, and you go, okay, they got everything from that movie,
right?
Because most people don't know Dark City, which is unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. It was like, it was one of, I remember, I think that was the movie that I really started liking Jennifer Connelly was that movie.
Yeah. So for the recollection of myself of anime horror that was a movie, I thought this was I thought this was a pretty high bar. I think this was a perfect template or perfect standard. Had been the first one that I was going to kind of try to compare the rest of them to.
Was there enough horror elements in it for you?
Yeah, there was very horror elements. There was a lot. Well, I mean, face it, body horror.
Well, yeah,
is huge in this. And and the idea of the underworld or other world that is parallel to our own, and having that thin veil and having people protect one or both sides. It's very horror thematic too. That is a kind of a standard story in a lot of horror things as well. So I think story wise and body horror wise, yeah, it was absolutely horror. And the forced sexual assaults.
There's a lot. Yeah, yeah. Don't watch it if you're squeamish or triggered by sexual assault, because there's a couple in there.
Yes. Was it as bad as our 70s ones? No, but it was still
not that far. But it's animation. If you're not expecting animation to have sexual assault in it, this will surprise you a lot.
There's tentacles in hentai for a reason, and this is the reason.
Yep.
So do you remember the first time watching it, and do you catch anything on the rewatches?
I do. I actually do remember the first time I watched this. I've watched it a bunch of times since then, but the first time I watched it is kind of funny because it was one of these weekends where no one can remember it occurring. It was bizarre. It was like my uncle at the time was going to college.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother, I came home from school I was in high school. I came home from school on a Friday, and my mom's like, guess what? You're going to hang out in a dorm room for the weekend. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I had no idea. Like, what are you talking about? And she drove me out to his college, dropped me off in this dorm room, and I hung out in a dorm room for an entire weekend. The uncle that was there, his roommates were all gone. Like, for the whole weekend, they were not there at all. And he was barely there. He like came in and out like maybe a couple of times to like make sure I had like food and supplies and stuff. And that was it. Like, otherwise I was just stuck in this dorm room. But one of his roommates had a whole bunch of old anime and movies and stuff. Like, this weekend is like, for me, it's like one of the defining moments of my life, right? Because I watched a lot of movies that I like have shaped me as a person, I think, in that weekend. But no one, my mom has no idea. She's like, that didn't happen. I'm like, no, it did. It did. No one remembers it. The uncle whose dorm room I was in, no recollection of it. No one has any idea that this happened. So this might have happened in an alternate timeline somewhere, and I've just now came into this one. I don't know. But
it's your Mandela effect.
Yeah, something like that. No one has any recollection of this ever happening. But this was the first actual adult, uncensored anime I ever watched.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'd watched anime before this point, but again, it was on Channel 66 on the weekends, and they had some of the more violent stuff, but it was always, worst stuff was censored out.
Right.
So this was the first one I watched, like, uncut, uncensored, and I was like blown away. I was like, whoa. Like, I knew anime was cool at that point. I didn't realize it could go like this far. I didn't realize how adult it was. But yeah, no, I loved it. It was great. Again, I watched so many movies that weekend. A lot of them were anime, but it was also like the first weekend I ever watched Clerks. There's so many movies. Anyway, I won't get into that. But yeah, this was definitely the very first adult anime that I ever watched. So yeah, I have a very clear memory of watching it for the first time. But yeah, no, again, I've been watching it so many times. I always get down to it. Yeah, it's like an erotic noir Men in Black. That's like the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, I mean, these are all pretty short. They're all like, I think Ninja Scroll is like the longest one, and it's like an hour
34.
Yeah. But the rest of these are like 80 minutes long. They're not very long.
Yes.
And I get, that was because, it takes a lot of time and effort to make all the animation stuff. So they cut it down to like bare bones before they made, animated and painted it. Because this is back when they did real animation.
Right.
They didn't have computers to do it for them back then. But anyway, yeah. So I like this movie, but yeah, it has a special place in my heart because of that. So, but we can go into highlights. You want to start with highlights, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll start with highlights.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I know we discussed this offline, obviously bringing it up here, is the attention to detail is amazing. Like, I felt like, we'll discuss it as we get on in these movies, is because there's not a lot of crowds of people, you don't notice it because everything there seems to be there with a purpose and drawn out and thought out, as I guess the best way of saying it, right? Everything has enough attention to detail, which is astounding to me. And I'll just say this as a highlight because it's funny to me is as detailed as they get into the woman body, our main guy, Taki, who has like 72-pack abs, has no nipples.
Well, nobody wants to see man nipples.
I know.
Well, I should say nobody watching anime in 1987 wants to see man nipples. How about that?
That's perfectly fair. But I was didn't do any research into these going because I wanted to go into these as blind as possible for my first watches. I thought the way it was, the way we'd say the way it was shot, but the angles of the drawing, the atmosphere is like cinematically a movie but it's an anime. Like you can see this being a live action. If they did a shot for shot remake, they could absolutely do this and be a perfect horror setting.
Oh yeah, and I'm honestly surprised that some of these have not been made into
this movie would be perfect.
Well, I think the sexual assault kind of puts people off, and it's again, it might be one of those movies where the creator has like a lot of control, and they'll be like, right. "Yeah, we'll make it if there's less sexual assault," and he's like, "No, it stays in." And okay, I guess we'll walk away.
But I mean, it's for 1987, and I'm trying to think of anything before this that this would have pulled from. But this seems like it would have been like easily like a 90s horror movie. But I mean, at that point in time, the sexual assault would be horrible CG snakes. Which, okay, I guess that's okay. But thematically, it could have easily fit into like even the early 2000s, the new French extremities. It could have fit into the Eli Roth world. We're talking 15 years later that it would have fit into that. So I think for 1987, it was astounding.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, because I mean, you figure when I watched this was probably mid 90s. We're probably talking like 93, 94 when I watched it, and like it was already 5 or 6 years old at that point.
Right.
So it's like, wow. Looking back at it,
yeah. I mean, it fits. Like it would never get made in unfortunately the United States because by that point in time we were already in that swing of censorship and all that, the VHS nasties in full swing. So I can see why this never made it really into America in the mainstream at the point of time it was. Because we were already swinging that hard to the conservative side of horror. This would have added to it, but yeah, I don't know how anyone would have seen this. I don't know. Was it subtitled or dubbed when you watched it in the mid 90s?
It was subtitled, yeah.
Okay. So I mean, no, those are my highlights. Like everything's felt perfectly. Other than I don't know if the voice was less creepy in the subtitle version, but he seemed like the classic 2-foot guy, old guy from anime.
No, yeah, that's exactly what he was.
Okay. I just didn't know if his voice was any different.
No, it was, squeaky old man. Yeah, same thing.
I mean, for the most part, his scenes do stand out as not being there, but everything else was, what I think was artfully and craftfully done.
Yeah, this one, I don't think I've ever watched the dubbed version of this movie. I think I've only ever watched the subtitled version. I'm not knocking the dub. The dubs are, I mean, a lot of people watch dubs that wouldn't normally watch anime at all. So I don't think badly of them. Me personally, knowing the differences, it's harder for me to watch them. This is just an overall thing, not specifically for this movie, but overall. Is I've watched a couple of different documentaries that literally, documentaries is a strong word, but anyway, comparisons we'll say. So where you watch a scene that's dubbed, you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. That's the scene, right? And then they showed the same scene subtitled, and it's like so many times it's just so different tone, different meanings. Like it gives more nuance to like actions before and after. Like again, a lot of stuff is lost in that translation. It's much better now. Okay, like nowadays they actually take it seriously and they actually try to do a good job. The dubs are actually, a lot closer. They try to keep that same vibe and everything. But then we're talking, this is in the old days when like they were like, whatever, get it out there, right? Like, it's not going to make us $1 million. You just getting people in here to workhorse it out and then be done with it. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the next one when I have an actual comparison to discuss. But like, yeah, I've seen it, like, especially like Cowboy Bebop was one of my favorites. One of the scenes that they showed, and it was totally different. And like ever since that point, I make it a point to always watch the subtitle when I can. You can't always, because some things just aren't available.
Right.
I always but again, I don't look down on people that do dubs because I know it makes it more accessible, and more accessible is good.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are your highlights then?
I mean, I like the there was a Thing reference in there. Did you catch that? Which I thought was pretty cool. Because I mean, yeah, the Thing was only what 5 years old at that point when this movie came out.
Yes.
Which was pretty cool. It was the spider head with the stalk eyes coming out of it. Which was kind of cool. I just like, I mean, like you said earlier, the style of it. The lore of the worlds, the hidden worlds, inside of the real world, and then the kind of bridge between the two. I really liked his gun. I thought his gun was cool. Maybe a little too powerful, but it's a cool looking gun. And I'll just roll in my low points, and then you can take yours after that one. They're just pretty simple. The old pervert man, I think, was a little much, and I think the sexual assault is like, there's like always sexual assault. Like every scene the poor woman is in, there's like sexual assault. And yeah, I think it's a little too much. I think they could dial it back
a bit. Yeah. I completely agree. The old man is a little much. The sexual assault is a bit much, and it's seems to go on for too long, like uncomfortable, like not 43 minutes, long of freaking what was that? I spent your grade.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This is more of like Last House on the Left length.
Right. Yeah.
Which is still too long.
Correct. Yes, it is.
No, like that. Those are really my only low points. It's the same as yours.
Yeah, but no, it's a solid movie. It's like I said, it's short and sweet. It's only like 80 minutes long.
Yeah.
Again, as long as you're prepared for the adult nature of this animated film, it's great.
The wife was not prepared for me.
I imagine. That's why I specifically told you. I said, do not watch these movies with your children because you'll have a lot of weird explanations to give.
I had a lot of weird explanations with just the wife watching it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it's a heavy one.
She's like, "You're gonna go watch it somewhere else, right?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Again, like this was the first adult anime I ever watched, so like it was like all downhill from here. I mean, I've seen worse ones, but it took a while for me to get to a worse one.
Yeah. So, do you want me to give my olives first?
Yeah, go for it.
With it being, I'm not judging it based off of being an anime. I'm judging just off if it's a regular movie, because it is. It's just a different style. Surprised, like I said, I was greatly surprised by this movie. I tried to have no preconceived notions of it and take all the stuff I hated from the Pokemon era anime that was ingrained into my head as a teenager, and view it from the different style of just being a straight up horror movie regardless of anything else, I will give this 9 sexual assault demons out of 10.
Wow, that high?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I said, this is the first one, so the bar was set really high for me.
Well, again, I wanted you to start out with this one because this was the one that I started out with. And I was like, okay, if we're doing this chronological order, I know he's going to watch them in chronological order. He's going to hit Wicked City first, and that's what I want him to do.
Yeah. No, and it's that high because I do want to watch it again, and I do want to watch it with the subtitles. So it's not going to be like a chore. It's going to be, I want to see what I missed. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I probably won't go that high, but I'll go an 8 because this one is, like I said, it's got that special place in my heart because it was my first adult one. So I always, it's the one that I've compared everything else to. So yeah, it gets 8 sexual assault demons out of
10. Perfectly fair. I'm sure there's more than 9 sexual assault demons in this movie anyway.
Probably, yeah. There was a bunch of them in the last scene. So
yes. So
okay, so on to our next movie by the same director, and just 1 year later is Demon City Shinjuku. Shinjuku is actually a sub-district of Tokyo. It is not its own separate town or city. Just so you know.
And I'll say this right now. Demon City, if you watch the subtitle one. Monster City, if you watch the subbed one.
Oh, is it really? They call it Monster City?
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
I know.
But anyway, so Demon City Shinjuku, and essentially the sub-district of Tokyo called Shinjuku. There's a fight between a guy named Rebi Ra, and they don't say the other guy's name, but anyway, his name is Gencharu or something like that.
Yes.
But anyway, so they're fighting. One guy's got a big metal, evil-looking sword, very easy to tell who the bad guy is, and the other guy's got a little wooden sword.
Oh, wooden, absolutely wooden.
Yeah, it was a boken. It's a wooden sword. So they're fighting. The guy with the wooden sword is losing. As the fight goes along, the bad guy kind of gives his monologue on what he's doing. He's saying that he's giving this section of Tokyo to the demon world, and after holding this section of the demon world like in this state for 10 years, then he will open up a portal to the demon world so the demon world can like come and take over Earth, something to that effect. Yes. So he defeats the guy that knocks his wooden sword into the crevasse, that because he basically creates this big huge earthquake to occur, and it actually sinks that section of Tokyo like down into the ground. So where like you have to look up these giant cliffs to see the rest of Tokyo up there. I don't know, 100 feet cliffs, maybe something like, I don't know, pretty big.
Yeah.
So that happens, and then it's basically, we don't know what happens after that. It's a time jump of 10 years after that point. And we're kind of introduced to this kid who we later learn is the son of the guy who died in the beginning. And he is practicing the same type of martial arts moves that the guy was doing. We find out that he taught his son some moves, but he didn't teach him enough. He was just starting to teach him like the kind of spiritual fighting that the dad was using before. So he barely knows any part of it. Anyway, so he sees on TV, it was like the president of Japan comes back from creating peace in the Middle East, which is, I guess, kind of ironic considering the state of the world that we're in right now. But yeah, after creating peace in the Middle East, him and his daughter come back to Japan, because he's the president, so I guess he comes back. So him and his daughter come back. He gets attacked by some kind of black tentacle stuff, whatever, and he gets locked away. Demon something attacked him, so he's like kind of in a coma or whatever. There's a little old man who then appears to the kid. And this time he's not a pervert old man, thankfully. But he's like a ghost because he is the, kind of master of this spiritual martial arts that the kid is trying to learn.
He was actually projecting himself.
Right. Yeah, so he has to stay with the president at all times to make sure he doesn't die because, again, he's a great man who, caused peace in the Middle East, so they've got to keep him alive. So he has to stay with him, so he, talks to the kid, and he's basically like, you got to help us, you're the only one that can go and defeat this guy, and if you don't defeat him before this 10-year time limit is up, then the demon world opens up and takes over.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, great, blow. Right.
Right.
He does not do it at all. He walks away. And then he's like basically going about his business. The daughter of the president tracks him down, somehow finds out his biking route, tracks him down and basically says, hey, I'm going to go into the city to help save my dad. Will you come and help me? The old man said that you'd come and help me. And he's like, yeah, no, blow. Right? So he goes to leave again, and she runs off into the city by herself, staying true to her word. And he kind of
because she's a fast runner.
Yeah, so she'll protect herself by running fast somehow.
Yes.
So he kind of goes, I guess I should go help her. So he reluctantly turns around and goes after her. So she goes into the city, and of course is like, being very kind of bubbly and just asking everyone for help. Of course, this is the demon city, right? So there's a lot of criminal element here. So they basically take her to mug her, and probably more than that, knowing these movies. Yeah. And he steps in to save her, and she's like, "Oh, you did come anyway. Great." So they quickly meet up with well, we'll get into this in a second. This is where I think the subtitled version and the dubbed version diverge at this point. I'm going to stick with the subtitled version. We'll discuss the differences later. A small child on roller skates comes out and basically, like they convince the one guy to say, hey, where do we find information to find this Rebbe Ra guy? And he's like, oh, you got to talk to this old hag. The old hag basically tries to steal their money and doesn't really tell them much. But anyway, they meet up with this little kid right afterwards. And the little kid is like, yeah, I know this city. I live in the sewers. I can get you anywhere you want to go. So they kind of pay him with this laser ring that she had. And he's like, okay, great. Yeah, let's do that. So he's going to go show them, the best way to get to the center where this Rebbe Ra guy supposedly is. Nobody's actually knows where he is because the center area, anyone that goes in there never comes out. So they're like, he's assuming he's in there, but they don't know because no one's ever came back out alive. But that's the only place that he doesn't know about. He's like, okay, we'll do that. So they basically, they have a little kind of scene with his like 2-headed Doberman dog.
Oh yeah, very Doberman dog.
Yeah, it's like a 2-headed dog. They're like, oh, where'd this 2-headed dog come from? And he's like, oh, there's a genetic lab around here. So I adopted him as a puppy. He's my best friend. And then this is when they find out that Rebbe Ra has demon bodyguards. And the demon bodyguards are now preemptively trying to kill these, the kid and the daughter, the president's daughter, because they pose a threat to Rebbe Ra, right? So the first demon is this giant, like, crab man. I don't know how else to describe that. He's a crab man. So they're fighting. They end up fighting on a train. He gets hit by the train that only takes off like one of his legs. But anyway, they're fighting and they end up beating him by a kind of a tag team attack of he hits him with his sword magic power. And then the little kid throws a grenade in his mouth and his stomach because he has 2 mouths, one in his face and one in his stomach. So he throws a grenade in his face and stomach, and then he dies. And the little kid says, that's for Kubo, my best friend dog.
Yes.
Now, at this point, I will pause and we will talk about what the dubbed version of this scene comes out to. The dubbed version of this, it's not a little kid. It's just a small man with a very he talks like this. Like very obviously an adult man.
He is a chain smoking
right. Yeah,
30-year-old man.
Right, yeah, 30-year-old man on roller skates. Who bizarrely, after they're fighting and the crab man knocks him down, the girl runs over and goes, "Oh no, not Chippy." Yes. Chippy was not the fucking kid's name. The kid is never named in the subtitled version. He's just the kid.
Yes.
And now she comes up with fucking Chippy out of nowhere. Again, I don't know who the fuck wrote the dubbed version of this, but they just were just doing whatever the fuck they wanted to do. And they're also just kind of a different vibe. Like the girl is very, very bubbly in the dubbed version.
Yes.
She's not quite so bubbly in the subtitled version. Naive, sure, not bubbly, not dumb. Just kind of naive, expecting the best out of people instead of just being stupid. Now the kid is kind of like in the dubbed version is like this kind of cocky, like 80s action hero kind of guy who like reluctantly helps her because she can't help herself. Now in the subtitled version, he's a very kind of like solemn guy. And the reason why he helps her is because it's the honorable thing to do. Like his father taught him, to honor. And so it would be dishonorable of him to let her go alone after asking him for help. It's just two like completely diverging timelines there. Anyway, that's the point where I couldn't do it. The part where I couldn't do it was when Chippy, I'll just call him Chippy. When Chippy is riding by and throws a grenade at the crab man, his mouth is clearly moving. And in the dubbed version, he doesn't say anything. It's just silence. And in the subtitled version, he goes, "This one's for Kubo," which was the dog's name.
Right.
So it's just very bizarre that I don't know. I don't know who made the choices for dubbing in this, but it was bad. I couldn't do it anymore. I was trying to do an experiment to try to do two of them. And I got that far into it. It was, what is that? It's probably not halfway, but around there.
About, yeah.
Yeah. So that was like, I can't do that. So I just switched totally over to subtitles. Anyway, so they fight. So they kill the crab man. That was demon number 1. Then they kill the one in the water. It was a lady, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was like a creepy lady that took Chippy's place somehow, and then dragged the kid into the water. And then they fought in the water, and he murdered her in the water. And then it like all the water like shot out of the puzzles, and then he came out unscathed.
Right.
And then they basically, they met up with Mephisto, who's just like your typical anime guy. I mean, the long black hair, the kind of trench coat guy. You know what I mean? Like that kind of solemn anime guy. That's really strong but bored with life. It's a kind of a trope at this point. I guess it wasn't so much one in 1988, but at this point in time it basically is. So they meet up with him, who I believe is supposed to be like the third demon.
Yes.
But he really doesn't care. Like he's not defending Ruby Ra at all. He's just like there. He kind of sort of tries to like divert them away for a short period of time and then just goes, whatever. So anyway, so the little girl, she's kind of, drained of energy after helping him in the whole puddle thing. So he drops her off with Mephisto. There's a scene where he fights the lady that tries to like assault him with her womanly ways. And Mephisto has to stop her in like a bizarre, I don't know what you even call that. It's like sexual assault fight. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call that. But anyway, so we just see that Mephisto is not against them at this point in time. He's just kind of like, he doesn't really want to get directly involved, but he's still helping them in his own way.
Do you remember, do you play Final Fantasy X?
Yeah.
Aron, the guy that has like the one arm out of his sleeve, like in this.
Yeah,
in
the guy with the big jug, and his special move is the like spit alcoholic breath.
Yes, that's who he reminds me of.
Yeah, no, that's the trope. That's the guy who's like the solemn guy that's really powerful but kind of bored with life. Yeah, it's basically who he is. So yeah, so the kid, finds Rebbe Ra and tries to fight him, and he loses, and he gets knocked into the kind of crevasse that is separating Shinjuku from the rest of Tokyo. He falls all the way down there, and he finds his dad's sword.
Yes,
or his wooden sword that had fallen down 10 years earlier, and his dad had put his whole life force into this sword. So when he picks it up, he gets all his dad's previous power. And then his dad gives him a little kind of recording, telling him you're strong enough. You can do this, love your dad.
Yeah. With my essence and your strength. Yeah.
Right. So then he goes back, and then kind of with the help of, the girl and Mephisto, takes out Rebbe Ra and then stops the demons from coming through. And that's it. And then of course, as soon as Rebbe Ra dies, the president gets unraveled, and then everybody's happy.
Yes.
End of movie.
End of movie.
But yeah, that was my experiment of trying to watch dubbed and subtitled, and then reporting on both. And I was like, I got halfway through, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't know what they were trying to do here, but I don't like it.
Yes, I again watched the dub version of this.
And again, I'm not knocking the dub version. I'm not knocking people who watch it. I just, me personally, it helps me make more sense of things to watch the subtitled version.
Yeah,
because you get, I guess, the pure meaning behind things. But I'm sure the dubbed is fine.
Despite the 10-year or 20-year age difference with Chippy.
All right, which is bizarre. And then him having the name Chippy, I'm like, where did that even come from?
All right.
Anyway, okay, so I'll do my highs first this time.
Okay.
Yeah, no, well, this movie I watched. I believe this was the second movie I watched right after Wicked City, because I'm pretty sure they were right next to each other. They did not have Ninja Scroll at this point in time, so I didn't watch Ninja Scroll until later. But these two that were there, and I did watch them. It was good. I was kind of surprised it was. I didn't really realize it was the same person, because they're thematically they're the same, but there wasn't as much kind of adult material in this one as there would in the other. I mean, there is some for sure. There's nudity. There's some sexual assault, but not quite as much as Wicked City was. So coming off of Wicked City, I didn't realize right away that this one was the same guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, I like the demon design in this one. I thought was pretty cool. The crab man had the ability to phase through stuff, the water lady. And anyway, the design of them was fun. It was kind of an adventure game kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I like the idea of having a lawless island of just criminals in the middle of Tokyo. They do explain at various points in there that they tried to send in the police, they tried to send in the National Guard, and all these people trying to bring order, and they all just died.
Yes.
So that they just let the criminals run the place, because anything they try to do, when they try to bring law and order in there, they just all get killed by demons. So they just whatever, we'll just abandon it. So poor Chippy had to do it alone.
Yes, it became Australia.
And then at the very end, it was just after he got his dad's sword, it was literally one hit. He just came in, bop, done. It wasn't even a fight. I mean, the first time it was a fight and he lost, but when he came back, it was bop, one hit, done, toast, movie over.
Right.
And that was fun. So what are your high points? Or what was your first impression too?
Yeah, the first impression is also kind of the highlight. Is in watching these in, let's face it, quick succession.
Right.
It felt like it could have been in the same universe, in the same world, even. You know what I mean? The demons, supernatural. You could see that it could have been okay, maybe that part of the treaty they had this lawless city part inside Tokyo.
Oh yeah, no, I can definitely thematically similar for
yes.
sure. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm like, okay, this is still, I think, thematically fits in well with this. Like I said, as I watched this past weekend, now not knowing that is written by the same guy, directed by the same guy, right. It all kind of makes sense. And I think they follow the son's revenge story pretty well, and this is almost kind of like the Shinobi, the Ninja Gaiden, the Ryu of video games. It's this story, but it's done in Demon City. And that came out about the same time this movie did, late 80s for the NES.
Yeah, no, same time.
Yeah, and Highlight's demon design I think was spectacular. They were very different enough, and to the point where this is what you said, 88. So I was watching like real Ghostbusters at this point in time when this came out,
right?
And if you remember, the real Ghostbusters is the generic ghosts were quite generic, but their creature designs and like the big bad were so unique and terrifying. And I think they would fit in perfectly with like this world.
So you think they should have had a crossover?
I'm just saying it's not just a generic demon. Like there's interesting stuff to it, and you go, okay, that part I can't see as much being made into a movie, but with today's technology, absolutely. Or a video game, to be able to do those effects would be perfect for it. And like I said, it was the overall story. Like I said, is it the son on the revenge of his father? Fighting the big bad. Yes, but I think they did it perfectly well. There's some that do that, the hero's journey or whatever one of those things are, and they don't do it well. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I thought that is a good story. Like I said, and could easily fit into the same world as Wicked City. If I didn't know any better and I had just seen it on TV, I would have thought it'd been a part of the same story. Quite honestly, and that's not bad.
No. Yeah, like I said, I mean, this one is basically like a slightly lighter version of Wicked City. Well, yes. Okay, like instead of, it's like, the first one, it's like an adult man, a full-on demon partner lady, right?
Yes.
And this one is like high school kid with another high school kid who's the president's daughter and another little kid on roller skates. You know what I mean? But dark things are still happening. I'm just saying it's like a slightly lighter version. Like, they took the kind of seriousness down a notch in this one.
Right.
But yeah, again, thematically very similar. Yeah, like you said, it could have happened in the same world for sure. But yeah, this one just felt like a little bit lighter. Again, like the sexual assault was a little lighter. The nudity was a little lighter. Everything was just a little lighter in this
one. Right. Do you want me to roll in my low points?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Dubbed version. You're in a ramen shop and your waitress sounds like she's from the South and she's gonna get you some more grits without sugar. I'm like, what the hell? Like, what dubbing choice did you go into? And so, like, all right, that woman in Tokyo in the ramen shop, Southern Belle.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, how the hell would that fit in here at all? And the only thing I can think of is like, okay, maybe there's like some kind of accent in Japan. You know what I mean? So we're like, people in Japan are like, oh, it's that hick from whatever, South Japan, that we would have no fucking clue what that means, right? We're like, I don't know what that means. So like, maybe they're like, oh, well, they're making fun of like the hick Southern Japanese. Let's put in a hick Southern U.S. person in there. Like, yeah, that'll work. I guess.
Kiss my grits.
Right. I was like, maybe that's what they were trying. I have no idea why they would put a Southern like waitress. I had no clue.
Yeah, that like immediately I go, what the hell?
Yeah, because this is the very beginning. I was like writing the beginning of my notes, and I heard that, and I heard her. Oh, what you want, Chigger? I'm like, I just slow turn towards the TV. What the fuck? Like, did I put on the wrong fucking thing or something? What the hell is this?
I thought for sure I did.
But no, this one, I own this one. This was my own physical copy. I'm like, this is not some weird dub.
Yeah. You know, the president from bringing peace in the Middle East decides to take a space shuttle from the Middle East to Japan. I go, the space shuttles are not airplanes.
Well, okay, what he did, he shot straight up, waited until that angle was so small that and then shot right back down.
And like, this isn't like a Japanese airplane. This is a space shuttle. This is hands down came off from a high orbit run or from the moon recently. And that's another thing. I'm like, okay, am I missing something? Did they just change it to the Middle East because of this time period and he really was on the moon? Like, maybe I missed something in the subtitle that the dub gave.
I don't know. Like I said, my experiment failed. I was going to watch the whole movie both ways, and I couldn't. I watched it halfway through the dubs, and I'm like, I cannot do this. And I had to switch to subtitles. So I didn't actually watch the beginning in subtitles and haven't for a while, so I don't know.
So the low point is the dubbing. It is so bizarre at points. And I feel like the dub version made it very lost in translation for me, and a lot of it.
No, you're not wrong, because I watched halfway through. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why is his name Chippy? Why is he moving his mouth and no one's saying anything? Like, what? Why would he not say something? It was bizarre. Bizarre choices, for sure.
And this is going to be my low point of JRPGs too, is wooden sword. All right, stop.
Okay,
usually they're explained away because like, oh, you can't you're gonna have the Star Trek mentality of you can't bring newer technology to these alien planets or worlds, so you have to use a wooden sword.
Oh, this one at least makes a little bit more sense, is because he doesn't actually use it like a sword. It's just a conduit for his like spiritual energy or whatever.
He uses it. Yes. I mean, I agree, but still a wooden sword.
Oh no. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying this one at least makes a little bit more sense. There are some of these that I've watched that they just have a wooden sword and it acts like a normal sword.
Yes.
It's like, I'm pretty sure that's not how wooden swords would work. But this one, at least they kind of, that they have an excuse as to why.
And he killed the guy without push it to the limit training montage to defeat him that handily.
Right. Like I said, he came back, pop, just dead. This one hit.
Right. Yes.
Wow.
That's not even a fight. Like,
nope.
Was he really that hard of a guy if he just had no issues after leveling up?
I think my favorite thing was like the other guy who's got this big metal sharpened evil sword that he doesn't swing at all. He just holds it up and then shoots a laser out of it. Like,
yes.
Why do you have this big, heavy, sharpened sword if you're just going to shoot lasers at it?
But yes, those. Oh, also, I guess that the main guy's supposed to be a high schooler, but the little girl seemed like she was 12. And I know.
Well, okay. There are younger looking ones.
I know.
I'm just saying, like, they always make them look younger in there. But I think she's supposed to be about the same age. But at least there wasn't a weird boning scene with them.
That is true.
At least we didn't get that. So we don't have to argue over how old she is, because it didn't actually happen.
Those are my low points.
Well, yeah, I'll agree with most of them. Yeah, I mean, the dubs, fucking Chippy, Kuro the dog, how they made it into like a cheesy 80s action. It really wasn't that, but they made it into that. It's, just bizarre. And I will say the soundtrack was ridiculously cheesy in this. It is like they literally picked up the scraps from like old 80s action movies and just like threw them in there. Like, they really don't fit, but they like kind of sort of like, okay, I guess this is the end montage music. Put it in.
That's why I said push it to the limit would have been better.
Right, yeah. But most of the movie doesn't have a soundtrack at all, and then it randomly pops up in points, and it's like jamming like an 80s, rock action movie, and then it goes to silence. It's bizarre.
Right.
But
is that it?
That's it.
You want to go first with your number of sexual assault demons?
Number of sexual assault demons. Don't get me wrong, I like this movie a lot. I'm just kind of judging it based on the ones that I've seen, in this group here, and other ones that I've seen overall. But I will give this movie a 6 sexual assault demons out of 10. That's simply because I don't really watch this one that often. Wicked City I watch more for sure. The other two in this list I watch more for sure. This one is kind of like every once in a great while I'll rewatch.
I'm trying to think of where I'm placing the rest of these in here. I mean, like I said, I liked it. I will go down to a 7. 7 sexual assault demons out of 10. So like I said, I had to, this grouping is on its own scale. We have to keep that in mind,
right?
For me, so
yeah, no, again, not a bad movie at all. I do rewatch it sometimes. It's not like I dread it or anything. It's just I don't think this one's as good as the other one.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we fast forward to 1993 with the Ninja Scroll.
Yes, a Toho movie. I was pleasantly surprised to see the Toho logo on this. I'm like, really? Okay, let's get into it. And JVC.
Oh yeah, this one is like more of the easier to find anime. Like the first two of this were like very rare. Like I had watched them that one weekend and I had not seen them for years after that because they're rare, unless you had a special order. Where Ninja Scroll was a little bit easier to find, a little bit more available.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to do a shorter recap because we have 4 of these into it. So essentially, this is the say close to the end of the samurai period or in the middle of it.
I mean it's in the middle of it, but it's at the end of their war period. It's the beginning of the unification of Japan period to where they were kind of sort of transitioning to a more peaceful role. But the unification of Japan had just recently happened.
Yeah. So essentially we meet maybe this is the dub for Jubei. Yeah. He's essentially the lone warrior. He is the Wolverine of
the Toshiro Mifune. If you've seen any of Akira Kurosawa's samurai movies.
Well, yeah, Logan is based off of him.
Correct.
So essentially he is just kind of say living his own life while not the emperor, what do they call the people that ran the different parts of the shoguns? Yeah. Essentially they're going to try to go get this ship of gold to raise their own army to go and essentially the way I got it was collate and get more power and expand his reach. He's pulling a kingpin from Marvel.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. No, yeah. That's fair.
And we were introduced to as essentially a village like, oh look, the plague. Yeah, they think is from a nearby boat. Or later a horse.
Basically what happened is there's this normal town and they're like just hanging out, and some lady that's obviously near dead from the plague comes up to these two guys and they're like, hey, isn't that this lady from this other village? And they're like, yeah. Oh man, she's sick with the plague.
And she's like, everyone from my village is dead.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, the plague hit us. We're all dead. don't go there. So
Right.
they abandoned that village as well because they're afraid that the plague has gotten there. So they abandoned that village, and then the Shogun guy sends his ninja team to go check out what happened at the original village.
Yes.
Now, when they go to check out the original village, they are all murdered.
Viciously.
Yeah, by Iron Skin, I don't know, super sword throwing man. I don't know what you want to call
that. Let's call him a golem that has the power of Colossus.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so he essentially kills all of them. The only survivor is a woman ninja who he
Kajiro.
then, in true fashion, we're going along here, sexually assaults
half her body into his mouth at a time.
Yes, because he is like 10 times her size.
Yes, and during the sexual assault demon, that's where we meet. We get our hero Jubei, and threatens to kill him, and he just kind of let's face it, gets his ass handed to him a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
He's able to. He's like, oh, I bet all of your skin isn't like this, and stab in the eye.
Right.
Right. So,
and then he just grabs the girl and then runs away.
Yes.
And then the big guy tries to chase him down, and some other dude goes, "Yeah, don't bother with them. You got other shit to do."
Right. Yeah. They're not worth it. Okay. So he doesn't kill him at this point in time. Then he goes, "Okay, cool. I'm out." And then he starts taking a bath in the hot spring, and enter creepy old man.
Yep.
And he's like, "Hey, you need to do this for me." No. Okay. And throws a ninja star into him. Haha, that's filled with poison.
Exactly.
You have a day and a half to live.
Yeah.
All right. And he grabs it. He's like, haha, stabs him. You think I would use the same one on me? Okay, cool. It's like, so yeah, you got to, I'll give you the antidote if you do these tasks. So eventually he goes into it, and let's see here. Is this when? This isn't when he comes back to that guy.
Yeah, no, it is.
Is it?
No, yeah.
Okay,
so
so
he basically gets dressed and goes to leave the town.
Yeah, and the guy comes back, and he's like fighting him, and like all of a sudden, he thinks he's winning, and like he just starts like melting from the inside, I guess, or splintering.
Yeah, well, yeah, his like iron skin starts to like flake off.
Yeah, and it's because anyone who makes love to Kajiro dies of poison because she is what's the X-Men name? She's always with Lady Deathstrike. That was in the Wolverine. She's like the serpent.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember the name.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So it's like her.
Yeah. Essentially, like, she's filled with poison because she was a poison taster, I guess. So, basically any touch, like, even a kiss from her is deadly because she's so full of poison.
Right. So yeah, anyway, I think he comes into, sorry, there's also a guy who uses a sparkling wire to talk to someone. The 10-mile long silver string comes into play later. I will give Jubei kudos, is his sword is attached to him by a rope or a string.
Correct.
Very, very strong string, nonetheless.
Yes.
So anyway, he is, I think they talked about something that like Jubei like 5 years earlier killed some demon Gemma and like decapitated him. But he's really unable to die because he's immortal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of goes, into play. Like we get a little bit of his backstory, why he's kind of just this lone guy, because he's kind of the last one to survive. So he given up his sword. But yeah, so he's fighting along Kajiro, and anything like that. So yeah, old guy Kajiro go to a village where like another town is being poisoned.
Well, this was the original village that lady said that she was
from. Yeah, and because they said there's this is one of the 8 devils on all, I believe, right?
Well, the 8 devils work for Gemma. Like,
okay.
the guy that he is supposedly dead is what the old man told him. He's like works for the Dark Shogun.
Yeah.
The Dark Shogun is basically the guy who worked for the previous contender for, Emperor of all Japan. So he's trying to like undermine the existing emperor so that he can like come back to power.
Right.
And Gemma is his agent.
Right. We have partial android lady with snake tattoos that can come off of her.
Yep.
That string and mouth guy is abusing it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, the flamboyant guy with the strings. There's the little guy with the hunchback that has the wasps in it.
Yes.
There's the guy that has the crossbow that can hide in the shadows.
Yep.
My favorite is the lady whose power is just gunpowder.
Yes.
She just has a bunch of gunpowder. That's her whole power. Like, okay, that's not a power. That's just something you make. Maybe she was the only one with the recipe, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, they're just kind of going around there and they're fighting. So anyway, yeah, he defeats the wasp nest back guy, like drowning the wasp into it. A lot of wasps.
Yep.
And the snake lady tries. I think she even tries to seduce or sexually assaults Kajira with her snake tattoos that come off.
Well,
and bites her.
Well,
like, that won't do anything to me.
The lady ninja doesn't come back until later. And
yeah.
that's when she comes back, is when he's like held down by snakes and she's like interrogating Jubei.
Right.
And then when she comes in and holds a knife to her throat, being like, let him go. And then a snake, comes out of her no-no zone and bites her. And she's like, oh, that's a poisonous snake. You're going to die. And she's like, I'm immune to poison. So that's how she saves him. And then she gets electrocuted by the guy with the string because he thought she was going to give up.
String.
Yeah. Well, 1, he thought she failed twice in one day. And 2, he thought she was going to give up information that he didn't want her to give up.
Yes.
So she's dead.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a couple other fighting. They get knocked off of a cliff, and his rope, that's his sword that's attached to, dental floss, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's the same kind of string that the other guy has. I don't know. It's like, It's like spider silk or I don't know
something
what it is.
Like
it's
that.
Super strong, very thin
one. In this feudal Japan, was able to act like the can and string telephone.
Right.
And all you do is like put it in your mouth and talk, and it'll be able to understand you. Anyway, so he, like I said, fight ensues. They kind of go, hey, if you have sex with me, I'm the antidote to your poison.
Yeah, the old man said that. We don't know if that's actually true. I think he was just trying to get them to bone, is what I think he was doing.
I think the pervert old man wanted to watch them bone.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, because he doesn't bone her and he survives anyway. So.
Correct.
But he does kiss her. And
yes.
She did say earlier that her kiss was poison too, so.
Because you know how you counteract poison? More poison.
Exactly. Like fight fire with fire.
Right. So just having one poison in your body, you'll have 2.
Yeah, and then your body freaks out and goes, I don't know what to do with 2. Whatever. We'll just ignore both. That's how it works.
Anyway, she dies.
Yeah, she dies.
Yeah, so eventually they get to the ship, and this is where we get let's call them the Foot Clan ninjas of
who are giving the stevedores a run for their money. They're loading that ship fast. Super fast.
Because we all know that gold is lightweight and easily throwable like that.
They're ninjas. They're ninjas, dude.
Okay.
They're ninjas. They're moving so fast that the weight can't even affect them yet.
Yes, but they are. This is, I think, the first time we really get to see like the process of reusing the same scene over and over. We had made this once for like 2 seconds. All right, how about 30? Let's just do it 20 more times.
Yep,
perfect.
Have them hop from all different places. Go.
Right. So anyway, the guy who is the Shogun, the Shogun gets killed.
Well, right? That's the Shogun kills the girl because she is still like in service to the Shogun. So the Shogun shows up like, we're here with the whole team. You're ready to help out. And she's like, oh, great. And then she turns around and then he stabs her in the back.
Stab.
And then you figure out that he was already dead. And he was being controlled by the other guy.
Yeah, and it was Gemma. It's like, you think cut off my head would kill me?
Right.
Yes. No.
Yeah, and he's got a big scar around his neck. His neck is thicker than his fucking head.
Right. So they start to fight. The ship kind of gets set ablaze, I think, from the gunpowder lady, right?
Yep.
And like, you'll never defeat me. I'm immortal. Aha. All this gold is melting, and we will give you a golden shower death from Game of Thrones, and you will be essentially encased in gold and sink to the bottom of the river. Jubei is seemingly okay, supposedly healed from the poison, acting with the poison. And, well, he goes on with Kajira's headband on his head and continues to roam the feudal Japan countryside.
Yeah. Well, there is a sequel and also a series. So, yes, he does survive.
Yes. Did I miss anything important?
No. I mean, I could go into, like, the behind the scenes of what was going on and shit, but that might bore you. I don't know. If you actually want to know, I could tell you.
Sure, give me a quick recap.
All right. Well, anyway, the gold was there was another clan that was the old emperor's clan, the one that got defeated. This clan was mining gold in secret so that the people didn't know and couldn't tax them. Now word was getting around that they had this gold, so they hid it. And then they were all wiped out. So there's this gold sitting there and nobody knew where it was. Well, they finally figured out where it was. And because they didn't want anybody in the area to see them taking it, that's when they killed everybody in that town and poisoned all their water.
Right.
And then they fake the pandemic so that the people left from the other town, because that town had a port.
Right.
And so everybody leaves that town. So then they bring their ship in to take that gold. And that gold they're going to give to, like I said, the Dark Shogun, the guy that works for the previous guy who was defeated. So they're going to take all that gold and raise an army and then fight for Japan again. So Gemma decides, well, fuck that. I'm the one doing all this fighting. I'm going to take the gold for myself. I'm going to be the new emperor.
Right.
And that was the whole thing. That's the whole background of it.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Again, it doesn't matter. It's just an excuse to fight, but
correct. You want me to go in my first?
Go for
it. It seemed to be the classic wandering warrior, lonesome warrior, right? As you said before, I don't remember the name of it.
It's a classic trope in samurai cinema. I say Toshiro Mifune. Toshiro Mifune is the actor that played that role in like a shit ton of movies. So
right. And I was even with the sexual assault demons, I was kind of shocked that they killed Kajira. Honestly.
Oh, yeah, it seemed like you on your toes, man.
Yeah. I honestly was not expecting it. I was also not expecting him to turn down the coitus. I watched these previous two movies. I think I know what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, because Jubei's a good dude.
Yeah.
He doesn't want anybody boning him out of obligation.
Right. Yeah, and then brought back the creepy old guy. I'm like, okay, he was not nearly as bad as he was in Wicked City. No, he was not, but he's still very manipulative.
Yes, he's an asshole for sure.
Yes. And it was interesting to see the kind of the demon. Like, this could have been, once again, I watched these all in a row, a precursor to Wicked City or Demon City.
You're probably right. It's the same guy. So yeah, I mean, you're right. Like I said, this one is probably the least horror themed out of them.
Yeah.
Again, and I freely admitted that last time. I just really like this movie, so I was like, I'm just gonna throw it in here.
And it could have been set, all these events started the treaty that we now got in Wicked City.
Very true.
No, I said it wasn't awful, but I can definitely see, there's definitely still demon-esque stuff and some body horror and some weirdness, but overall, a decent movie. What are your first thoughts? Do you remember watching it or anything on the rewatches?
For life of me, I can't remember the first time I watched it, but I've watched it a lot. I owned this on VHS, and I owned it again on DVD, and I don't know what happened to it, but I can't find it. So I had to watch this one again, this time as a dub, because that's the only version I could find to watch. Like, even, I searched for it on every streaming service known to man, and it was like, nope, does not exist. So
yeah,
I'm sure it'll show up on like Crunchyroll or something at some point. But
yeah,
as for right now, when I was trying to watch it, it wasn't there. I could find the series everywhere.
Yes,
but the
series is easier to find.
Yeah, I could not find the actual, 1993/95 version of it. Yeah, so I remember the first time, but it's one of those ones I've owned and rewatched at least every couple of years. So it's one of my very favorites.
Okay,
that's it. Do you want me to go on high points, or you want to go on your low points?
You can go to high points.
I really like it because it's kind of a more classic Japanese anime story. It's still darker. I don't like the happy stuff. That happy shit really bothers me, and I can't watch that kind of stuff. But it still has that darker aspect, but it's more, it's got that fun samurai era thing to it, right? Which I think is super cool. It's got your ninja hops and your blood jets when they get, cut, and like blood is spraying everywhere. We get like blood rain and stuff. I mean, it's fun stuff. It's good stuff. I like all that kind of stuff. And I did like that they had the LGBTQ guy in there, and nobody really called him out or anything. He was just there.
Not at all.
Yeah, he was just there, and he preferred the company of men, and that was okay. The one lady was jealous of him, but that was she wasn't mad that he was, what he was. She was just mad that he kind of stole the guy. She had a crush on him, and she was upset that he didn't like girls. that was like the whole thing. That was the kind of rivalry between them. But yeah, nobody cared that he was gay at all.
They both had the same guy.
Right, yeah, they were both they were both boning the same dude, and they were like, kind of rivalries about it. But yeah, like nobody bats an eye. He's just, he's gay. It's okay. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Which is, again, interesting. It's interesting for 93 in Japan.
It's interesting for that time period that it was set too.
Right. But yeah, that's all I got. What do you got?
Once again, I feel like, the creatures and, the things that were fine were just, they were very unique to me. They don't look like anything else. They didn't look like, oh, this is clearly, off of this guy. Right. And I like that. Like, to me, they're fresh characters. They're well drawn when they decide to draw them. And I do appreciate the blood spatter, and it is, I said, the trope is a trope for a reason, right? It's a good story to do, and like I said, Logan's adapted that tremendously. Wolverine, like Wolverine's entire story of him going to Japan is essentially this story,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, replace Lady Deathstrike with Kojiro.
Well, I mean, it's funny because like the two biggest, I think, genres that are known for that is one, like samurai movies and 2 like westerns, right?
Yes.
And the funny part is that a lot of westerns just straight up stole samurai movies and remade them as westerns.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, very classic. Like you have A Fistful of Dollars, right? There's like the first big Clint Eastwood western movie is a blatant ripoff of Yojimbo, which is Akira Kurosawa's very early movie. It's literally scene for scene, same fucking movie.
Right.
And then you have like Seven Samurai, which is again probably Akira Kurosawa's most famous movie. I think probably his best movie, but The Magnificent Seven. Very famous western, right? Who had like oh Jesus, I can't even remember everybody that was in it right now. Yul Brynner was in it. The guy who was in all the Death Wish movies. I can't remember his
Bronson.
Bronson was in it. I mean, like again, a lot of people, a lot of famous people, big western at the time. Yeah, straight up stole from Seven Samurai. There's so many movies that they just was like, yeah, we'll just remake these samurai movies. Nobody in America is gonna watch it. Just pretty true. Not many people watched Akira Kurosawa movies.
Yeah, at that point, absolutely. Now, yes.
Well, yeah, now it's a lot more mainstream because there's access. That's the big thing. As back then, access was very hard to find. You'd have to know what you were looking for.
Right.
Like I want to watch Seven Samurai. Nobody goes into the movie theater and goes, Seven Samurai, that looks interesting. No, because it was never fucking there. Like, like you're going to Blockbuster looking for Seven Samurai, you're going to leave empty-handed because, I mean, I'm sure some of them may have had it, but it's not going to be out on the shelf like advertised.
Right. Do you want to roll into my low points then?
Yep.
Putting half a woman in your mouth at the same time. I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And what would bother me is that like they never they just assume Jubei is okay, but at least in the dub, it's just like, is he cured or is he going to die in like 2 hours?
No, they kind of leave it vague and open, but they do go out of their way to show you that he kissed her. And that she said earlier that even a kiss from me would be enough to kill you. So technically the kiss would have been enough.
Right, but the old man wanted to proceed to know if they boned or not.
Right, because the old man was an asshole. Yeah, the old man was an asshole. Right, because he's a jerk.
The ninjas, the animation ninjas pissed me off a bit.
They're moving super fast because they're ninjas, man. You can't see detail on them because they're moving so fast.
Yeah, I guess. Sure, why not? It just it came into that trope that is like the big trope, and it happened. Like I said, it happens in animation a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like anime it seems to be more blatant or more obvious for some reason.
Well, for like TV shows and shit, yes. For like classic movies, they very rarely reuse stuff. But again, they're pretty short movies, and they're usually unique enough where you can't really recycle stuff. So they can, if they can, they will. There's a short scene there where they do.
And let's face it, Jubei was a shitty fighter. He was a shitty fighter. He barely did anything.
Oh, he killed everybody.
He's definitely the most, let's say, human of them all that we've seen in the past in these 3 movies.
He fought the blind swordsman guy in one.
That's true.
The blind swordsman guy was supposed to be the best of them all.
Yeah. And I want to know what... Okay, I'm assuming the string that he uses on his sword is the same string the guy uses that is just this Ex Machina string.
Yeah, it's some kind of like metal string.
That can go forever and you can't see it until it's there.
That's exactly what it is.
I didn't like that.
It's magic. They got guys with he had a fucking cyborg wood suit.
Right.
This is not classic Japan. This is like alternate timeline for that. Yeah, the guy in the beginning was like in that weird like wooden automaton suit with a gun hand.
It's like cyberpunk feudal Japan.
Yeah, well, I don't know what you call that. It's not even steampunk yet. It's like wood punk or something.
Samurai punk. There you go.
Something.
Let's call it. We'll start the new genre, samurai punk. What are your little points?
Not a whole lot. I mean, the sex cure is ridiculous, of course. And the love story, it basically is like Rambo 2. Have you ever seen Rambo 2?
Yeah.
It's like the exact same fucking love story to where like he meets this lady and he knows her for like a day and somehow falls in love with her. She fucking dies. And then he takes her like little necklace and puts it on. And then in this movie, he puts on her little headband. And then he goes and kills the bad guy. It's like the exact same love story there. Where like it's not really a love story because like nothing like sex happens at all. It's just they like somehow fall in love even though they only knew each other for 24 hours.
Yes.
What year did Rambo 2 come out? I know it was before 93. So
86?
Yeah, probably pretty early because I remember Rocky 4 came out I believe in the late 80s. So
my guess is 86.
Yeah.
Somewhere
around there. Yeah. So it was like basically that love story was like stolen from Rambo 2.
There you
go. The one that was essentially like patriot porn. The one where he goes back to Vietnam and like wins Vietnam by himself.
85. I was 1 year.
Oh yeah. Again, I was like, it was peak time for that. But yeah, Rambo 2, where he goes back to Vietnam and wins the war all by himself. Which was ridiculous because the first one was, I mean, I think he only kills one person and it was by accident in the first movie.
Yeah, first blood, only blood.
Yeah. It was only because the guy was like being super fucking dangerous and that was like he didn't kill anybody else.
Yeah. All right, do you want me to go first for number of sexual assault demons?
Sure. What do you got?
I will give this a 6. 6 sexual assault demons out of 10. How about you?
I will give mine a 7.5. Sexual assault demons out of 10.
All right. So that means you only fit a quarter of a person into your mouth at that point.
Correct. That's correct.
All right. Well, tell us about the last
one. Okay. I'll try to keep it quick because I know we're getting long. Okay. So Perfect Blue came out in 1997, which is again still classic. But we've graduated into like kind of the internet age. And I think this is the first movie I can really remember like the internet playing a story in like this kind of way. In like that kind of like, psychological thriller kind of way.
Yes, I would agree.
I mean, they had movies that used the net as like, as like a goofy, avenue before that point. But this is the first one that actually like took it seriously enough to just put it as like a regular part of the life instead of making it like the whole movie about it, Anyway.
Remember, as long as it's Mac OS, you're fine.
Oh, right. Okay. So anyway, there's a lady named Mima who's short for Marina or so. I don't know, something. But anyway, we call her Mima. So she is a pop idol, which is a huge thing in Japan. But anyway, pop idol, the only thing we really need to know about their culture there is that pop idols, this goes for J-pop and K-pop, is that basically they have to be like super, super clean. Like they can't be seen doing anything even remotely like dirty. They can't even be known to have like boyfriends, girlfriends, anything like that. Like they have to be very.
Think of a singer that's starting a Disney Channel.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you have to be very, very clean, very, very, like sterile. They have a very like they're selling your image and it has to be pristine. So that's what she was, and she decides that she doesn't want to do that life anymore. She wants to be an actress. So she essentially leaves behind her pop idol group, which was doing okay, but not great. So she leaves. As soon as she leaves, because they were a trio, now they're a duo. The duo starts doing better without her, which kind of upsets her. And the roles that she's getting at first are very, very minor. And she's kind of like, oh, that's sad. So at this point, she gets like on the internet because somebody like hands her this note saying like, oh, I go to your website every day. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, I don't have a fucking website. Like, what are you talking about? She doesn't even know how to use the internet at this point. So she buys a computer. Her manager, Rumi, shows her how to use it, and how to get to this site. And she gets to this site and it's like all these pictures of her and like, it's like her like video diary. Well, not video, but like a text vlog, right? Is that what they call it, right?
Yeah, a vlog. And it
a blog. Sorry, blog, not a vlog, a blog.
Yeah. And it dictates like what happens to her in the real world.
Right. Yeah. It's like talking about her life and things that are going on. And she's like, oh, this is interesting. This is fun. Right. Because nothing has like happened that's strange yet. So, basically as she moves along, she's being an actress and they offer her a kind of role that's going to put her in a position to where like, if she was a pop idol, she would not be able to do it. Right. Because they're talking about sexual assault. I know, big surprise.
Right.
But they're talking about she's going to be an actress in a rape scene. And like, they're very concerned over, oh, are you going to be okay with doing this? And she's like, no, I want to move forward as an actress. I want to leave my pop idol self behind. I want to move forward with this. So she's like, okay. So she does that. After she does that, there's kind of like, critically it's doing well. But her old fans are now really upset. So,
especially one guy in particular.
Right. Yeah. One guy with the creepy eyes that are on the sides of his head.
Yes.
Anyway, and so she goes on her website, and the website is now transitioned into being like, I don't know why they're making me do this stuff on TV. This is not what I want to do. I'm the pop idol. I'm the clean girl. Like, I don't want to do this kind of stuff. And she's like, well, I'm not writing this. Who's writing this? Like, whose website is this? Well, this is obviously not me.
Right. It's like slandering her manager.
Right.
Yeah. And like the persona online is what they expect her to be still.
Right. Yeah. So basically what happens is that people around her start dying. And it's basically like the people that are seen as kind of like as being blamed for what they're doing. Like the guy who wrote, the guy who wrote the rape scene, he gets killed.
Yes.
Right. So it's like anybody that, that becomes a part of this, that the website talks about made her do bad things. Like her other manager, because she had like two managers, her other manager gets killed. There's a couple other people in there. I don't remember who they were. Oh, the one guy who was at her concert and like, threw a can at the stage. He got killed. So anyway, a bunch of bad things are happening here. We end up finding out that the creepy guy that's at all her shows and shows up everywhere she is, he's even like watching her acting and stuff. He's just like a super stalker. We find out that he is hanging on that website every day, and that whoever is writing the website is emailing him every day. And when she is asking him to like do something about these people that are making her do this stuff. So he thinks he's talking to her.
Right.
And so she's killing these people. And eventually, again, I'm making this quick. She starts losing control over what is real and what is not. So she's like losing herself in the acting role, and then she's losing herself in the internet. Like, is this really me? And I don't remember doing it. Like she's in the acting thing, is like, is this my real life, or is this other life my real life? So she kind of like gets stuck in this weird loop where she doesn't know what's real and what's not. And there's all this stuff that's going on. Deaths are happening around her, but she doesn't understand if it's real or not. Anyway, so she gets to the point where eventually the fake Mima on the website tells the creepy stalker guy to kill the fake Mima.
Yeah.
Because she's doing all this bad stuff and she's now an imposter. She's not, a different version of her. No, she's straight up imposter. Kill her so that the real me can come out. Anyway, so, attacks her. We end up finding out that the fake Mima is actually Rumi, her manager. And Rumi, the manager, is like dressed up as the old pop star her. And she's like an older kind of, I don't know, how do you say that, flabbier lady, right? But in her mind, and also in in Mima's mind, she looks like her old pop idol self because, again, Mima is not exactly psychologically stable at this point either.
Right. She sees it as herself,
right?
But only in the mirror side do we see that it's Rumi.
Right. Yeah. So as she's like, when Rumi is running down the street, we just kind of see her like hopping in this kind of like, ethereal way, right? Just gonna happen. But when she moves past a window, you can see it's big old Rumi huffing and puffing, like chugging along. So it's just like, but they're both lost in like this weird, similar kind of dream to where, Rumi thinks she's the old Mima, and Mima also thinks that's the old her. And she's like, basically, so they get in this big long fight. And Rumi ends up dying by impaling herself on some glass. Well, she doesn't die, but she gets knocked out or taken out of commission by this broken glass. And then at the end of the movie, we find out that Rumi was, just nuts. She had that identity disorder. She has multiple personalities. One of them is the old Mima. One of them is Rumi. There's other ones too.
Right.
And she's like locked in a psych ward. She says, sometimes she slips into Rumi, but usually not. Usually she's sticking with Mima all the time.
Yep.
So then Mima, the real Mima ends up becoming like a kind of sort of famous actress, and then Rumi just ends up getting locked in the psych ward.
Yep.
Again, there's a lot of nuance and a lot of art style stuff that goes on behind the scenes here. I'm just trying to hurry it up and not, linger too long on that kind of stuff. I think it's presented in a fun way. But that's the basic story.
Yeah. Do you want me to go with my first thoughts?
Sure.
It's simple. Black Mirror.
Well, Black Mirror, yes, before there was Black Mirror. Because, this came out in 1997.
Black Mirror, a.k.a. Twilight Zone, a.k.a. Outer Limits type of, they do play on the DID. They call it DID at that point in time. But the idea of the blurring of the real world and let's call it the actor world, and in addition the cyber world. Because a lot of people reading the blog read it as her,
right?
And it's like someone is like, a lot of famous people shouldn't type their own social media out, so they have someone else do it. So they're hearing it someone else's words, but in the context of whoever.
Right. But this is a very early version of this, to where, again, like, this is, 1997 is like the Wild West of the internet. Like, nobody was controlling anything at this point. So, like, who knows if it's really them or not? Nobody has any.
Well, I mean, there's no way of verification, and especially 97. So anyone could they could be anyone. It's always that joke, oh, that hot chick that you're cybering with, it's just some old dude in his parents' basement.
Right.
Right.
And it probably was.
Correct. Like I said, it was, once I understood what it was, I appreciated it more.
Yeah, no, it's probably
the second half.
Right. Yeah. Well, the movie is probably better if you watch it and know what's happening, and then wait a while and then watch it again.
Okay.
I think it settles a little better, because then you're able to see the kind of split. You're able to see when things start going back and forth. Because, like, through the movie, you basically assume that she's just losing her mind, and that she's killing these people, and she's got, this multiple personality disorder. But also the thing is that the character she's playing in the show she's in also has this split personality, and is murdering people in her other personality that her regular personality doesn't remember. So again, it's like, is this real? Is it art imitating life? Like, is it the other way around? Like, who knows?
Right. Because her psychiatrist in the movie or show, she goes, oh, after the rape, she became someone else. That person died, and she came forward.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, again, we don't know if the real her or the actress version of, we don't know what's going on. It's the way that it's cut back and forth is like, you don't know who she thinks she is at any point in time.
She becomes a very unreliable narrator.
Correct. Yeah, you don't know what's going on, and again, it's not until like the end where you finally understand what's happening, and even then, it's like, what? Even after you find out what's going on, it's still like she still sees it in the wrong way. I don't know. It's interesting. I like it. Also, fun fact: if you've watched Darren Aronofsky's movies, specifically Requiem for a Dream and Black Swan.
Yeah.
They are both very, very heavily influenced by this movie.
I can see that.
So like
Especially
Requiem,
Black Swan.
Yeah, Requiem for a Dream literally has scenes cut directly from this movie. I mean, it's an homage. He did it on purpose. It's not like he tried to steal it. But like he literally like scenes shot for shot in this movie and in Perfect Blue and in Requiem for a Dream. And also like Black Swan. I mean, basically the whole plot of the movie is the same kind of thing. And Darren Aronofsky, he freely comes out and says, yeah, Perfect Blue was one of my big influences. And there's been other things in his movies, but those are the two biggest, I think.
Yeah, I can see. I haven't watched Requiem in a very long time, so
yeah, it's been a minute. That's a depressing movie. That's a movie you have to be prepared for.
Oh, it's kind of like all his movies, though.
It's fair, yeah, fair.
Do you want to go to the highlights first? Or you want me to go into it?
I can do it if you want.
Yeah, go first.
Again, I really like that version of the early internet, like being a part of this, and not in the kind of generic, kind of like they put it up on a pedestal, like the net, just like goofy stuff like that. Like they had the internet, but it was like this cheesy fictional version of it. Right? But it was like doing things you can't do on the internet simply for like movie stuff, right? This one is just like, the internet is in there and the internet is doing what the internet does. It doesn't do anything crazy. There's no like hacking involved. It was the first movie I saw that really was just like, yep, this is the internet. And it plays a part in the story, but it's not doing crazy stuff. This is what it can normally do.
Right.
That was the first movie I can remember doing that, which is interesting. Again, I do like the style, the way that it was cut together and shot to where, again, you don't know what's going on. You don't know if who's the unreliable narrator, who is even the narrator, right? Because you don't know what's going on. And that's the fun part of it, at least for me. And again, there's a lot of movies. I mean, I specifically called out Darren Aronofsky, but there's a lot of movies that take a lot of style pointers from this movie. And I think it inspired a lot of movies and filmmakers in the 2000s, which is cool. But I like the whole, is it real or imagined? Is it a dream or is it real? That whole thing I really liked. What about you?
No, I agree with that. I think, as you know, I split this into two different chunks. And the first half, and I was the first half versus the second half. First half, not a fan of.
The first half is like, it's like a pop idol trying to make a transition into acting. That's the first half. That's all it is. You get a little taste of like the stalker guy and stuff, but like none of the juicy stuff happens yet.
Correct. Like I said, this. So the highlight really is, you have to watch it more than once. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that, going and watching the movie again, knowing the information you now know. Because you can view it from a very different light. And I feel like the psychological twist, the DID, the unreliable narrator, you have to do it. You know what I mean? It's not, usually it should not be a one and done type deal. And I think that it works well. That's gonna be something that I have to rewatch in one sitting, and then to rewatch it again, because there's always been stalker-ish movies, but this is, as you said, the first one that really dealt with the internet and how the falsity that they're presenting yourself as something that you're not comes into play without the internet being some mystical force that exists.
Well, there's plenty of movies that came out that did, internet things, but they're all like magic bullshit, doing things that are like, the internet doesn't do that.
Correct. So I appreciate that for it. Can we roll into my low points?
Yep.
Mac OS. First and foremost, that was an Apple II in 1997. I know it because I worked on those in elementary school. That's why I had. And like that is like did they get I was thinking, like, did they get product placement for this movie? It doesn't seem like they put this product placement in this movie because, well, bad guys can't use apples. I'm to say that if that show was her last show with, let's say, 80 people, they play one song and she goes, "Yeah, I quit." What a shitty way to go out.
Well, I mean, yeah, like the Pop Idol thing there is like, that's a crowded genre, man. That's
yeah,
they're all over the place. But if you look, like their shows were all like, oh yeah, we play like this mall at 2 p.m. Like, of course you're gonna be tiny little bitty shows. Like, I mean, you're gonna have your fans or whatever, but yeah, you're not gonna be selling out fucking stadiums at 2 p.m.
Right. And then next to the food court, next to the vomit, next to Sabero is
right Cham.
right,
which was the band name.
Yeah. Yeah, that. I mean, obviously, the sexual assault scene is still a lot to take. I mean, yes, do they artfully do it? Yes, but for it being 1997, and it's funny that it is 26 years later that we still see people in the real world struggling with that transition, and they go from like that Disney pop star to boom porn.
Well, yeah, because again, it's like I always say, you can't like raise a child telling them not to do something, because then once they figure out what that is, that's all they're gonna do. It's like, yes, don't do that. Expose them to other things. That way they can be balanced. Otherwise they're gonna go all in to whatever you don't want them to be into. And that's like what these Disney kids do, man. They're like, you're not allowed to do anything. You have to be super clean. You're not allowed to have a boyfriend, or you're not allowed to even hold hands with anybody. Blah, blah, blah bullshit, right? And then you get fucking Miley Cyrus, who, had to live her, perfect little Hannah Montana life. As soon as she got a little bit of freedom, she went nuts. But do I blame her? No.
No.
Of course she did. It's like what happens when you, put, girls in Catholic school and then tell them they have to be good and can't do anything bad. Right. They don't act good. I'll tell you that.
There's nothing in this movie. It boils down to I fucking hate pop stars.
Well, I'm not a fan either.
And just for these reasons. This movie shows the reasons why I don't like it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's all fake.
Yeah,
just like the whole conspiracy that the NFL hired Taylor Swift because their ratings were down. Yeah, I brought that up on Thanksgiving, and yeah, they didn't like that.
What are your low points?
Yeah, basically, yeah, the sexual assault, not a fan. Just after, like, every movie has sexual assault in it, which is not every anime has sexual assault. I promise you. It's just everyone that we're watching, everyone with a horror element has sexual assault in it, I guess. But I think it just the tiny apartments that they have.
Yes.
I mean, like, you even see it, like, in her bathroom, she has one faucet that she has to swing between the sink and the tub.
Yep. And
they're so close together that it's like, just go, like, literally right there. Like, that's how small it is. And, like, her whole apartment is in, like one little tiny room.
Yes.
Ugh. I mean, I know that. And, like, any like big metropolitan area has tiny apartments like that. I can't do that.
This is why the Famicom had 2-foot controllers, because that's as far away from the TV you're ever going to be.
Right. Yeah, that's like standard space. I know. I understand. Like, Japan, like Tokyo, especially, is like,
yes,
it's so crowded that, like, it's like this. I think it's like the most expensive square footage in the world. I think.
Yeah.
Just because it's so crowded.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. You want to go first for your sexual assault demons?
Yeah. No, I like this movie a lot. It's one of my very, very favorites. So I will give this movie 9 sexual assault demons out of 10.
Wow. Just for a first watch with no rewatch, I will give it 6.5. Change my mind. It's not my least favorite. No, it's obviously it's a different type of horror. Like I said, I do need to watch it again, and like I said, I'm gonna rewatch all of these. I plan on with subtitles and see if it changes my context and really my scoring.
Well, I mean, it'll give you a little bit more insight. It's just you got to focus more.
Yeah,
like it'd be days where I'm not sleepy because if I have to read while I'm watching a movie, I may fall asleep if I'm already tired.
There you go. So, all right, why don't you take us home?
Sure. Next week will be the last week in the month of me. I know everyone's very upset about that. Join us next week as we watch movies in the vein of the classic Twilight Zone episode, 5 Characters in Search of an Exit, which is my favorite Twilight Zone episode. I'm sure you guessed by now. People get trapped in a situation with a group they don't know and are tasked with finding a way out. We've gone over some of these previously, such as Predators and the Cube franchise, obviously, that was just a couple weeks ago. Yep. But next week, we dive into even more with Vile, Exam, Identity, and The Hunt. So remember, we watch bad movies so you don't have to.
And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh. Good night.